Everyone, I hope you're doing okay today. So, on today's topic of discussion, I'm going to talk a little bit about fat burning workouts. Obviously, people say to me all the time, what's the best exercise to improve my fat loss goal or my weight loss goal? What's the best exercise to be doing? What's the best routine to be working on? Could you advise a certain program to get the best possible results? And today I just want to make sure I give you some tips to move forward with things as well, but try not to overthink things too much with this, because I think this is very, very important to make sure that I bring this point up first. Is the best exercise that you could do right at this moment in time to lose weight, drop body fat, is the one that you enjoy the most and the one that you feel you'll be more consistent with. Because if you start to focus in on trying to do something that you don't necessarily want to do, and you're sort of like, okay, well, you know what, I'm just going to go and do this exercise, not this set or something along the lines of that, of this exercise or this certain plan, because I want to lose weight. And that is the primary reason for your delivery of that exercise, or your delivery of that program to get the results. I honestly need to bring this up now, is because that's very, very important to make sure that we enjoy things that we're doing. Obviously, exercise isn't going to be enjoyable all the time. I know that. I've probably go out for regular runs sometimes and just don't feel like going. And there'll be like lifting sessions that I don't necessarily want to do. But, I love lifting weights. I love running. And that plays a big role on my fat loss goal, because I'm consistent with things. I enjoy it a little bit more, and I can start to work at this regularly. And it's in line with fat loss goal. But I actually need you to make sure that you focus in on other things as well, other aspects, and not just concentrate just on fat burning for your goal, really. So what I generally tend to think about with this is, how many other benefits are you going to get from exercise as well as fat burning as well? So is it going to improve your energy levels? Are you going to sleep better? Is it going to relieve a lot of stress? Are you going to feel more mobile as well, less pain-free? And all of these things are very, very important. And if we start to focus on them things, I think you will probably move more in the right direction as well. I honestly find that exercise isn't something that we should be focusing too much on with regards to fat loss. Being in an energy deficit and reducing your weight down and getting the transformation goal that you want, to feel happy and confident with the way you look and feel, isn't necessarily going to come from exercise too much. If you look at energy balance, exercise is only like a really small amount of energy that you will generally tend to use per day, basically. Things like NEAT, your steps that you do throughout the day, your movements that you do, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so fidgeting, even little things like that. That's probably going to play a bigger role than exercise, funnily enough. And then the biggest thing is your rest and metabolic rate. How we burn calories at rest. That is the huge amount of energy which is used throughout the day for that. So we know that nutrition plays a big role on this as well, and that's something I think you need to be focusing on more with regards to fat loss. But it's not necessarily something that you should just like move away and say, oh, well, no, I don't need to think about any type of exercise to help me burn body fat, because there is ways to help you out, and that's the reason why I wanted to bring up this information today, to help you guys out and move you forward with things. So I did mention this actually as well, and this is what I generally tend to do with clients quite a lot as well, is I try and focus on making things creative and trying to change things around all the time, because that plays a massive role on people's goal. If I was to design a program for someone and I basically just like give them the same workout all the time. So say, for instance, they were to do, because I know that obviously they need to work on compound lifts all the time, because they get the best, they're the best movements for their fat loss goal, basically, and so many other goals. So if I was just to give them, say, a back squat, and they were just to do the exact same exercise over and over again, even though I know that would really help them out and benefit them if we just change things around, like, the sets and repetitions, sometimes they're going to get bored of that exercise. Like I would. If sometimes I probably wouldn't. I'd probably do back squats quite a lot anyway, but not a lot of people would like to do it that way as well. And I know that there's a lot of people would like to make sure that they have their programs changed on a regular basis, because it just gets you thinking about things a little bit more. And if there is an exercise that like my clients really enjoy doing, then I'll probably put it in a little bit more. But it's important to make sure that we change things around. There's so many different types of squats you can do: deadlifts, lunges, whatever, presses, pulls, anything like that, core exercises, all of these things which are going to get people the best possible results if we start to be creative with things. And that doesn't necessarily mean we need to be considering progressive overload, because we know with progressive overload, if we want to challenge ourselves more, it's good to make sure that we switch things around a little bit. So moving from a more advanced squat exercise to progressing on that is going to help people out. But the main reason why I change people's programs isn't probably because of progressive overload. It's just to make sure that we make things creative and we switch things around a little bit more, just to make sure that they're enjoying the process that they're on. Because I understand that sometimes as well, with strength movements, they're probably not something that we really enjoy all the time. I work with a lot of runners who want to lose weight and stuff, and running they love doing, and obviously that helps in line with their fat loss goal with their nutrition, but they still need to make sure that they're working on strength movements as well, because that does help that little bit more. It just gives you that little bit more of a boost with regards to their not just their performance or their mobility or anything like that, but their fat loss goal as well, because they're creating muscle mass, and this plays a big role on making sure that we get the goals that we want, because we want to look better as well. We want to look toned and defined. It's not necessarily just dropping body fat and losing weight. It is about how we look as well. And, resistance training plays a big role on that. We need to be thinking of fat burning, but we also need to be thinking of transformation of our body as well. And that usually comes from when we work on things like strength training on a regular basis. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope that gives you a bit more of an understanding on that we need to make sure that we switch things around to make sure that you are moving forward with your goal and you're enjoying the process and you're loving things. Because I honestly find it happens quite a lot with programs that I set up for people. Sometimes when people are doing strength movements at first, when they very first come with me on my programs, they don't necessarily enjoy them, but all of a sudden, because they get a little bit more confident with lifts and I'm changing the programs around and they're learning from me as well, they just get this buzz and they start to do them a little bit more. I don't necessarily do many personal training sessions anymore, but I've got a guy at the moment that I PT, and when I first got him in the first few sessions, he probably didn't enjoy it too much, but now he's doing sessions on his own. I've set him up now with online workouts, so he's able to now do them exercises on his own because he feels confident and he's switching things around. He's changing things like his workouts around with regards to advanced training methods. So we always know that we can do like circuits. Sometimes we could maybe bring 2 exercises together and do them back to back. We don't necessarily need to work on reps all the time. We can work on time and delivering movements as well. There's so many different ways of working on strength training, and honestly, it's like I love it. I love the fact that I can change these things around, get people some confidence, get them learning about things, not just about how to deliver a movement, but just different ways of training as well, like going low reps and high weight to high reps with with low weight as well, and working on things like hypertrophy. There's so many different ways, guys. So yeah, I hope that makes sense with regards to being creative with things. Start to change your programs around all the time. If you need any support with regards to this, just feel free to DM me or something, and I'll run through a little bit of information with you on that. Happy to help you out. And also as well, I think, which is important with this, and this is a little bit more specific, but what exercises create and use up the most energy? That is like such an important role to play to get you the best possible results, because I see it quite a lot in gym, and I'm quite observant of what people are doing in the gym all the time, just because I work in fitness, and I'm quite interested in how people train and stuff. So I do see it quite a lot. Is a lot of people will generally tend to work on like smaller muscle group exercises, which don't generally tend to use up too much energy, and they may concentrate on that movement a little bit too much. And it's important to make sure that we move away from them slightly. I don't necessarily think it's something that we shouldn't be doing. I think sometimes isolated exercises are really helpful for your, conditioning. If you've got like a weak area and you need to concentrate on that area a little bit more. But I honestly find if you're doing like squats, deadlifts, lunges, presses, pulls, and there's so many different ways of delivering them movements. There's thousands of different types of exercises that you can do with everything that I've just mentioned there. If you were doing them on a regular basis, they would be a lot more taxing for you. They would increase your, they would burn more calories off, basically. They will increase your breathing rate. And it's important to make sure that you deliver them, because when you're delivering movements like that, then they target lots of areas as well. So they're going to save you time. It's like, this is amazing. I'm saving myself time as well. I'm not having to isolate movements all the time. I can just concentrate on one exercise, and then it's ticked so many different boxes. And it's also increased my heart rate a little bit more. I'm feeling like I've done like a cardio workout as well. It's great. It's not just working on like strength. It could be working on your cardiovascular fitness as well. And that's really good. And I find that's really, really helpful for a lot of people, because it's saving themselves time. They're doing the exercises which matter the most to them, and they're getting a result from it. Being creative, changing them rounds. There's thousands of different squats, lunges, deadlifts. Think out the box with this. Use different equipment as well. That's probably one thing I didn't bring up is, using different equipment. I didn't have that on my notes actually to say today, but yeah, using different equipment. Use barbells, use dumbbells, use kettlebells, use body weight movements as well. Maybe try an exercise which requires more balance as well, because they're important. And start to think of these things, because they will really, really help you out, and they'll get you interested a little bit more, and then they use up lots of energy as well. So I think that's really, really helpful for a lot of people. Another point I wanted to bring up was around hypertrophy, endurance, and rest periods as well, because as I say, I'm observant again in the gym. I look around and see what people are doing, and I honestly find what I do see quite a lot is people having long rest periods, unless they're in like a class or something like that. They're consistently moving because they've got someone there to hold them accountable. And it's okay, obviously, if you're working on things like, basic strength, and you want to improve like the maximum amount of weights lifted on an exercise. But for most people, they just want to feel toned, defined, and they want to transform their body. They want to just feel and look better. They want to drop a little bit of body fat as well. So, with that, then let's work on hypertrophy, which, with a rep range, really, we should be hitting at least 8 repetitions, a little bit more on that, increasing the repetitions there, working on like a relatively challenging but manageable weight. You don't want to be lifting a weight and it's like, you get into like 20 repetitions and like, I could be here all day. You want to be feeling some form of resistance when we pick up a weight, but we don't want to be like, Christ, this is heavy, this straight away. You need to make sure that you figure out exactly where you are with things. And that will change as well. like once you start to get stronger, things will improve a little bit more, especially if you're a beginner and you're just getting started on things. I think that's very, very important to think about as well, is that drop your weights down, think of hypertrophy, work on endurance, rest periods, maybe do like a circuit as well. I just mentioned that before, like a superset where you're doing 2 exercises back to back, a tricep, 3 exercises, a giant set, 4 exercises back to back, having a really short rest period of 10 seconds and then moving yourself back into that next set can really be like really taxing. You start to do that with big compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, lunges, presses, pulls. You're doing that on a regular basis, then you're done in 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And that's another good thing to bring up as well, is it, with me working in gyms for so many years, I'll see people coming in and training for over an hour, well over an hour in the gym, and sometimes 2 hours, or they may go to a class and they're working on 3 classes back to back. And I'm like, you don't need that. All you need to be doing is working at the correct intensity, working at that high intensity there, which is really taxing for you. And then just go home and enjoy the rest of your day. Save yourself time. Because I mentioned before as well, I've mentioned this so many times before, is the cost benefit of you doing more exercise after that hour, I'd say, is going to be very, very small with that. And if you're able to manage the exercise for if you were to do a class or anything like that, or you're managing an exercise after an hour, and you're able to move okay through the movements, then we need to be pushing that intensity a little bit higher. 100%, guys. Do that for me. That's really, really helpful. And also the same goes for training twice a day, coming back in the next day, or just doing too much frequency with things. If you're working at the correct intensity, guys, it's going to really help you out. It's going to save you time. You moving forwards with things. You can get on with the rest of your day and look at other priorities, your family, your work commitments and stuff like that. Focusing on them a little bit more, still being able to get the results and not having to worry about come in and spend hours in the gym per week. It's not needed at all as well. We need to be thinking of recovery as well, which I didn't actually bring up in my notes as well. Another thing is recovery plays a big role, because then once you start to recover better from sessions, you're moving forwards with your goal a little bit more, because you're getting into that next session recovered, feeling mobile, and right, I'm ready to hit the ground running as well. Depends on your fitness level with this. I actually thought of this is important, that if we focus on what you're able to do is important. So I'll speak to clients on a regular basis and say, okay, where are you when they first started with me? So what's your exercise history? What have you done before in the past? Have you been training regularly up until you've seen me? Because if they haven't, then we need to take a step back and we need to reduce the frequency of sessions. But if someone's been training regularly in the gym, they've been doing loads of strength movements, they've probably been training 3 or 4 times a week, I'll probably be able to make sure that I can cater for that a little bit more, because they've got a little bit more experience. So experience helps with recovery as well, because they'll probably recover better from sessions as well. But if you're just getting yourself started, keep it really short on the frequency and just slowly start to build up a little bit more on that. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. And I think the last point is obviously progressive overload as well. I actually find progressive overload of, pushing yourself a little bit more in sessions, making sure that you're moving forward with your goal, can really, really help you out. So could I increase my repetitions? And could I increase the weight that I'm lifting? Most people focus a little bit too much on weight. Start to focus on reps as well. I think that's important. And also as well, what not a lot of people think about is rest period. Start to monitor your rest period in between your sets. And let's just say you have a rest period of 30 seconds. Then maybe that next session that you do, maybe drop it down to 25. and see how you get on. Then slowly start to drop it down each time. And you'll find as well that, we talk about recovery as well, like recovery in between sets. So once you've done an exercise and then you go into that next movement, 20 seconds in, you've not got that time to recover. And it's like, oh God, this is getting more challenging now because I've not had the chance to recover. So it's finding different ways to do that. Obviously, whenever you're doing progressive overload as well, it's important to make sure that we look at form. Whenever you're pushing yourself, there's always going to be some form of shady form when we start to tire with things as well. So be aware of things. I get clients to video exercises sometimes when they're delivering movements. So I can sort of say, okay, yeah, well, your repetitions up until like 8 were great, but then we started to tire a little bit more in that. So we may need to take a step back from things. But I think progressive overload is great to do because it gives you a little bit more of a challenge. If you're that type of person that likes a challenge and you like to beat things like how many reps you've done or anything like that, it can be really good. But there is a certain point that we don't want to go past with things. We don't want to be working on progressive overload all the time and pushing ourselves because it can promote injuries as well. We do need to take time to recover. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. If you have any other questions at all with regards to any of the information I brought up, please let me know. Fat burning workouts, there's so many things that I could discuss on this and to get yourself moving. And it's not just about going into an exercise session, doing burpees and stuff like that. It's just basically being able to make sure that you can create an energy deficit basically for the result that you want. But there's so many different ways to make sure that we can do this because being able to maintain it and be consistent and prescribe the right exercises so you're moving forward and also saving yourself some time at the same point as well, because that I think is an important role to play, and varying your volume of exercise that you're doing and your intensity can help you move forwards with your goal. So guys, if you've really enjoyed the content today, feel free to message me, let me know what you thought of it, and feel free to share this on your stories. If you share it on your stories, guys, it is really, really helpful. Feel free to subscribe to this as well. So if you really enjoy me, things like your podcast or my YouTube videos at all, subscribe, and I will speak to you all soon.